Mystic make you to learn better and to make things better. So I would say maybe I turn this around. What is the most important consideration to ensure success for a startup company? So one thing that I did observe that I believe as well, the technical superiority automatically leads to the market success for sure. You have to have a highly technical and superior product to get to the market. This is totally understandable. We are all scientists, so we take pride in pushing the boundary. What is possible? Have we reached the limit or not? But the reality, we also need to look at what is the customers really in need? What's market needs? Because sometimes market doesn't always reward that's the best technology in theory, right?
Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist. I'm David Brühlmann, your host. Ever wonder how you successfully commercialize an innovative technology? This can be a real challenge for us scientists, and that's exactly what we're focusing on today. I'm joined by Chervee Ho, who is the co-founder and CEO of BioChromatographix International, who is revolutionizing purification with next-generation monolithic chromatography. We'll explore her journey, the critical mistakes companies make when developing new technologies, and how to build solutions that actually get adopted. Let's dive in. Are you juggling the complexities of CMC development while trying to enjoy the beauty of biotech? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to simplify bioprocessing? Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast, where we're diving headfirst into the very challenges you face. We're breaking it down, demystifying the jargon, and giving you the keys to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, David Brühlmann, and I get it. With 15 plus years in the biotech industry, I face the same challenges you do. There's a way to simplify and streamline so you can remove complexity, you can skip trials and errors, deliver without delay your groundbreaking therapy to clinics and market, and still enjoy every single step. Do you want to learn how industry experts and I did it? Grab a cup of coffee and your favorite notebook and pen. Now is the time to take your bioprocessing game to the next level. Let's smarten up biotech. Welcome, Chervee, to the Smart Biotech Scientist. It's good to have you on today.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me on the show.
Chervee, share something that you believe about bioprocess development that most people disagree with.
This is a good question because this is quite personal. So basically, I believe bioprocess development it's just not a scientific challenge. It's basically a strategic integration problem that probably everyone should start with a commercial intent. That's my personal experience. So it's not just a technical ambition. For me, I think traditionally, everyone view bioprocessing as a sequential stage-gated exercise to optimize upstream and then to the downstream processing and then figure out how to scale up. But in reality, I think in every decision that make, it has a cascading consequences on a cost of goods, a facility fit, a risk on regulatory, and also time to market. These are all the variables that are interconnected and often sometimes it managed in silos. We don't know, right? For an example, in downstream chromatography, I've seen sometimes technology are selected for high recovery or purity, and that's always the top target. But when they hit the commercial, they have a resistance because they only realize that, hey, something doesn't gel because we have not thought of the commercial side. Well, that's the thing that I have seen over the days or over the years. This is a common trap that sometimes design for performance is good, but also have to think of the adoption, the market adoption itself.
Yeah, you're making a good point. It's all about market adoption, and we're going to dive into that much more. So I'm very excited about today's discussion. But first, let's talk about yourself. Draw us into your story, Chervee, because you have a fascinating career journey. Tell us how you got started in biotech. What was that spark, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way to now leading your own chromatography company?
Yeah, it has been an exciting journey. So my background is in biotechnology, of course. So what drives me forward and the passion itself is always about the curiosity, right? So the kind of curiosity that makes you ask, hey, how this works and why does this even matter to anybody? So I was drawn to biotech because it sits right at the intersection of between the discovery and also the impact. So the idea of a molecule that designed in a lab could be one day become a life-changing therapy. That really fascinated me, right? So this translation from science to solution became a driving force in my entire career over the years. And I think the pivotal moment for me earlier on is I become really aware of the science alone. It's not really just move the industry forward. It's about the commercial value also. It has to come hand in hand, right? Because in my previous experience, especially in the CDMO arena, I saw a lot of like countless very promising technology that stalls, not because they do not have the innovation. They have great innovation, but sometimes something we're missing there because the scientists forgot that the build has to start with the end in mind, with the end user or the real world condition. What is the needed from the market? So I guess that's the disconnection that I'm having, that pivotal moment, that what is missing in between that gap, what is scientifically elegant and what is commercially viable, that become a problem that I think I couldn't ignore. So that's what led me to co-found this company called BioChromatographix, based in Singapore, together with Scott.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And let's address the elephant in the room. And you alluded to it already a bit, because let's face it, many biotech companies have brilliant technology, or even university labs, they have brilliant technologies. But here's the tragedy, because many of them never make it to the market or to the patients, which is a big tragedy. So what is the biggest mistake scientists in particular make over and over again?
I like this question, David. I would not say mystic, because mystic is part of the journey. And especially you founded a company, mystic make you to learn better and to make things better. So I would say, maybe I turn this around. What is the most important consideration to ensure success for a startup company? So one thing that I did observe that I believe as well, the technical superiority automatically leads to the market success for sure. You have to have a highly technical and superior product to get to the market. This is totally understandable. We are all scientists, so we take pride in pushing the boundary. What is possible? Have we reached the limit or not? But the reality, we also need to look at what is the customers really in need? What's market needs? Because sometimes market doesn't always reward that's the best technology in theory, right? What is the most usable, scalable, or that a solution that can de-risk in practice? So it's a mindset shift from a technical performance to the most practical adoption for market acceptance. So especially when you are trying to introduce something disruptive, it's just like iPhone, right? And for us, what we are focusing on to build and develop a monolithic chromatography media, we built alongside the commercial strategy with a few guiding principles that we held really back of our mind. Is the first one is to start with the end in mind, because we always ask ourselves, how can we make this better? Have we reached the limit? How does this fit into the current workflow without having to disrupt or minimize disruption on the user current workflow? And that leads us to design access flow, which is our BCI product portfolio that could integrate easily into the existing workflow with the right dimension formats, documentation, GMP readiness, so on and so forth. So the main point towards my first principle is we are not just designing a product. We are designing what is the market need and also a high quality product. And the second principle that we adopt is really to design for adoption, not just performance. Of course, we can't compromise the performance. It has to be a tip-top performance. but it's also alongside, it has to come in parallel with the market adoption. It's something that you can't learn from a textbook. It's something that you adopt through your working experience, right? So it's always a tempting experience for lab excellence, of course. But if, like I mentioned earlier, if our product, when we add a new product to a current workflow, people might not like it, right? So this is one of the example. We talked to different people, right? And one of the purification team that said, oh, I don't want to change the current section. How do we do this? So we have to navigate through the challenge by asking a lot of questions and to understand, to listen, and then to understand, to bring it back and feedback. And how can we make this? What is the gap? Understand what's the gap? What's the pain point? So on and so forth. And of course, the third principle that we always have in mind also to bridge the concept to use the case early. Once we understand what are their pain point, of course, we will conduct a lot of conversation and then bring it back from prototyping stage all the way to what is needed in the market, right? And their feedback will shape the concept, how we validate our workflow, how we structured everything, and how do we fit into the current workflow to make their life easier, all the way to packaging.
That's excellent, Chervee. And let me recap that because it's so key for scientists to hear that and to understand it, because I've had a lot of conversations with scientists in my consultancy projects and also before doing technology development. And what I see scientists, actually, they make often the same mistake. They're so fascinated about their technology, their amazing mass spec or their chromatography column, but they don't actually know what the customer needs. So you said we need three things. So first of all, start with the end in mind. So know what the customer needs. Then you have conversations with them. So it's a relationship and you get feedback. And what I heard, the third thing is you pivot all the time based on that feedback. That's how you develop a commercial product.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, innovation is just not, oh, this is what I want to build. I want to hit A, B, C, D, but forgot about the commercial side. Because success is not just being the first and the tip top. You also need to think of what is needed in the market. So it's about making your solution the easiest choice in a complex, risk-sensitive environment. So that's exactly what you have concluded as well.
How do you apply now this framework to your specific company? Because you're developing a novel chromatography technology, and we know that the biotech industry is conservative. So it takes some time to convince people to use a different technology. So how do you apply these principles? What is the strategy you're using? Can you let us in a bit in the inside of your company? As a scientist, you can read every peer-reviewed paper and listen to every podcast, but there is nothing like being in the room with industry peers, where you get new scientific insights, deals get made, and problems get solved. That's exactly why you need to be at the Advanced Therapies Europe 2025, which will take place in Barcelona from September 2nd to the 4th. Connect with 500 plus cell and gene therapy leaders solving the same challenges you face. I'm talking live case studies on cost reduction strategies, direct networking with companies actually implementing these solutions, regulatory insights on distributed manufacturing models, and exclusive collaboration opportunities that you won't find anywhere else. As a Smart Biotech Scientist listener, you will get 20% off with this code SMARTPODCAST20. That's SMARTPODCAST20. Look, your competition will be there. The question is, will you? Register now. You will find the link in the show notes.
Let me just elaborate a little bit more. So at BCI, we embedded a commercial thinking. Of course, this has to come hand in hand with the great co-founders that pair with each other, where I have the commercial and experience, and Scott definitely have the technology experience on that. So we both embedded a commercial thinking at the earlier stage. You have to start with that. And even before the product development, you need to come up with a concept. So what we did is we map out the market backwards. alongside together with the product development. We start with, okay, identifying who are the target customer and what are the pain point, what are the pressure they face in the lab, what are the current solution that they are currently using that cause the gap itself, and can our technology solve the bottleneck? So besides solving the bottleneck, what are the risks that they are causing and what are the costs involved? Because everybody is talking about costs when it comes to switching solution. So this is what the strategy that we put in before execution. And because we want to avoid the trap of building technology in search of a problem, right? So we want to solve their problem instead of building more problem for them. So that's how we shape Axis Flow, our product portfolio, to solve the real operation bottleneck, to make sure that this align how the biopharma team works as well. So it's not just an afterthought, but it acts as a compass for us in every step to understand who this is for, how can we help to support them, what are the pain points that they're living day to day in a lab, and what are we entering into? How do we deliver the trust as well? That's why we need to make sure that the product that we develop, it's in tip-top performance and also commercially accepted by the community.
And how early did you start? Because what I'm seeing also is certain people, they first want to have something because they're afraid, it's not perfect, it's not good enough. How early should you start and how did you go about that?
I like this question because it's always a question in a startup company. Everybody wants to make everything to be perfect before you launch, but it doesn't have to be that way. In a startup environment, nothing will be perfect. Everything is messy, but you need to be very structured and take one step back and you do it first. You evaluate the market and you come back with feedback. You have to start as early as possible. Like recently, I have this conversation where I mentor one of the program in Singapore, one of the startup co-founder. He asked me this question and said, "Hey, Chervee, do I need to find a co-founder?" I said, "Of course. It depends on what you want." So coming back to this as early as possible and think of what you really need to achieve out of this product and start the end in mind. And then you calculate backwards. What are the activities that you should conduct in order to get from point A to point B?
So it seems to me that you should start as early as possible. That means probably even before you're officially a company. For instance, if you're spinning off a technology from the university or you have an idea, while you're talking to potential co-founders or thinking about how you start your company, you can already have these conversations, right?
Yes, because for commercial, it's a huge topic. So commercial is not just by selling and getting revenue. You need to understand what is the competitive landscape? Who are you competing with? It's your technology has a competitive advantage. What is the value you are trying to bring to the market? And that's very important.
Yes, absolutely. That's very important. And let's dive into this a bit more because I think many scientists confuse commercial thinking or commercial strategy with sales, which are two different things. Sales is just a tiny part. Can you help the biotech scientists tuning in better understand and also help scientists actually understand why they should engage in commercial thinking, even as a scientist?
I'm just here to share my humble experience. Of course, definitely. They are two different things because science is beautiful, right? Science is building something that it's a tip-top condition that you want to plug into the usability and how the technology can solve a problem. But adoptable solution is a commercial. You are trying to solve a problem, but also adding into value that is easily acceptable and you can sell. So it's a chain of reaction. It's a chain of everything. Having a good technology is one thing, the best technology, but if you want to just stay in your scientific space and doesn't come out of it, it's very hard for you to sell. Unless there's a super disruptive technology that can get out without having a sales and marketing team to sell the product, right? So why I see this gap is because in order for sales and marketing to sell, you need to embed this commercial mindset to really think that what is the market that is needed. What is the first of all pain point? And that is the selling point that you can sell. And from there, you calculate, you just plan your activities backward. What I need to get besides having a great technology, how do I get into an adoptable solution? There are two parts of it. This is from point A, a science, the technology, to point B, adoptable solution. So in between are the steps and the activity that you need to develop in order to get from point A to point B.
And what I'm hearing, and I just wanted to say it in a different way because I think it's important that we understand that technology is great, but nobody's going to buy your technology because your technology is great. People are going to buy your technology because you're solving a real problem. It's about transformation. And I think that's how you should position your product, right? Because it's the best technology, but it's actually solving a real problem.
Right. I mean, this is how I would say that your question are leaning towards how do you identify and validate the real customer pain point, right? So it's like sometimes a scientist is uncomfortable having a conversation with another person. Hey, how do you think of this? But you just need to get to the uncomfortable level to ask the real question. Because sometimes engineers or scientists, they just love to do the day-to-day work, the lab, and to find the novel science. But if we go into deeper to listen to other people when they use a solution and ask, hey, what is the most frustrating thing in your process today, right? How can we navigate through this? And what do you think that the commercial people, the market will use? So pay attention to what they really think. Having a real conversation is important. And through that, you can validate in the iteration. You can put a concept down in front of them and say, hey, if I do this, would that change and solve your problem? That could be another thing. If the answer was not really, then you have to go backward and refine it. And that works in every industry and every startup company, right? Assuming sometimes your pain points are usually vague or the real one come with a story. So you just need to go back. It's the same formula. You go back and you find out what are the challenge, and then you go back and refine it and go back again. I think this would be, instead of assuming this is what the market wants, talk to the customer and validate their pain points and understand that.
Sometimes the pushback I get is they tell me, yes, absolutely, we should talk to the customer, but we cannot disclose all the technical details because of IP concerns. Can you tell us how you navigate that tension? Because you have a novel technology, and I'm sure you don't want to disclose all the technical details, but still you're having a lot of conversation. So how does that work?
Definitely. This is some of the things that it's confidential, you can't share. But there's a lot of other ways how you communicate success. Like we do have a lot of publication coming out with data that is public data that we can definitely share. So therefore, we run a lot of experiments. We have beta testing sites that will actually generate data, and we write peer review journal together. And that are the things that we indirectly could communicate how the technology perform, and with the real user experience that have used and tested the problems before. That's how we navigate field found itself.
That's a wrap on part 1. Chervee's insights on commercial thinking and customer-centric development are game-changing. In part 2, we'll dive deeper into positioning against industry giants and building commercial-ready teams. Do you have burning technology development questions? Book a free call at Brühlmann Consulting/call, and I'm happy to help you get started. And hey, if this episode helped you think differently about commercialization, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you found us on. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.